Yesterday evening, to wrap up the owners' meeting, a question and answer session with Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL. He talked about the Deshaun Watson situation.
I think we were very clear over the last year that the civil cases were in play over the last year also. The only thing that's changed is the criminal element has been at least resolved. And that was an important element in the context of the Commissioner Exempt that we've discussed with our Players Association. So that was an important, if the criminal had proceeded, that would more likely have triggered a Commissioner Exempt. I think at this point, a civil case in and of itself would not do that. If there's a violation of the personal conduct policy, that may trigger something, but that would more likely trigger some kind of discipline in some fashion.
Let's welcome in Jeff Risdon from brownswire.com. And Jeff, so what he's saying is commissioner's exempt list not likely, suspension very possible if they find out coming through that civil litigation code of conduct has been violated. The other thing to keep in mind that we've been reminded repeatedly, Roger Goodell is no longer the person that decides that solely. It is a kind of a joint venture, and the lead on it is a lady. So all those will factor into any type of punishment that is handed down for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, it definitely keeps spiraling into different directions. It's hard to keep track. I was pleased that Goodell did acknowledge that he's not going to put him on the commissioner's exempt list. I think that's an important state. That's something that the Texans desperately wanted him to do last year. Then they wouldn't have had to pay him, and they wouldn't have had to have him sit as a roster spot. So that's at least consistent behavior out of the commissioner. It does leave it up, though, that now it sure looks like it's going to be a suspension. How long, how much wiggle room there is with an appeal, if they suspend him for 10 games and he appeals it down to 8 or 6 or something like that. That seems to be the generally accepted parameters that I think we're looking at. But it could be less than that. If he winds up being exonerated in the civil cases, they don't find enough in there that indicates that he clearly and unequivocally violated the personal code of conduct, then he could get by with just a couple of games of suspension or not even a suspension at all, although that seems really unlikely at this point. But yeah, there's a lot of legalese that's going on. I think Goodell did a pretty good job of covering bases without going into any depth on it. And that's something that he's become quite good at as the commissioner. That's something that probably he doesn't get enough credit for. It's maddening for those of us who have to cover it, but he's learned to be a pretty good diplomat on that front.
And the other thing that's important to note, it will be the NFL Players Association and the league kind of coming together with a joint commission, if you will, to decide what the final resolution is in terms of suspension, no suspension, that kind of thing.